So it's been a couple of weeks since Season 6 of Black Mirror was released, and it's safe to say that upon reflection it hasn't settled like many of the other seasons of the show. I don't have that empty, underwhelming feeling like when Season 5 was released, but I don't have that open jaw where I'm in awe of what I just watched like I did with the early seasons and the likes of Season 3, and it's been bugging me, and judging by the response to the overall season, it seems like something that many other people have also thought. So I thought it would be worth breaking down and explaining why Season 6 of Black Mirror felt different and where it went wrong. Let's jump into it. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. It produced the worst rated episode of all time. Black Mirror is a show that has historically never really produced episodes in it that aren't up to standards. Charlie Brooker always tends to deliver when it comes to the idea creation. The team deliver on creative execution, and the cast have always delivered in terms of performing. It's usually been a division of opinion amongst fans and viewers on whether or not one is better than the other, rather than it being due to the writing or the original idea being poor. Within this season, we saw the latter being present. We saw an episode that was significantly lower than the average rating of an episode of Black Mirror, and it was almost an entire point lower than the previous episode that was considered the worst, which was Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2. Maisie Day clocked in at 5.3 on IMDb, a rating that we've never seen in this show before. There had never been one in a 5, and this one was on the lower end of it, showing that the quality of this episode just wasn't there. That in itself is enough to contribute to the season feeling like it's missing something, because 1/5 of the entire season was an episode that wasn't considered that good, so it's almost like a bit of a waste of an episode. The proof was also in the pudding as well, because when watching the episode it felt a bit like a confusing mess. It had an interesting point about the paparazzi in the 2000s painting people out to be monsters and having blood on their hands for the photos that they took, but it was just executed in a poor fashion, and it didn't have the intelligence or identity that a normal Black Mirror episode would usually have. If anything, we should be grateful that there were 5 episodes in this season and not 3 like Season 5, because I think the season would have most likely felt worse if the worst rated episode took up 1/3 of the season instead of a 5th. With Black Mirror in its prime pulling in 8s and 7s, that is the level and standard of episodes that we're used to as a viewer. So when getting a 5.3 amongst a season that didn't even hit an 8, it definitely dragged the already slightly underperforming season down slightly. The lack of societal impact being present. One thing that I feel Black Mirror does really well in general is depicting the demise of an individual at the hands of a piece of technology that has made a large impact in society and became something that many people have adopted. Within this season, there was no grand scale or larger impact that was being felt. It was very much focused on an individual and their personal issues within their demise, rather than the wider society. For example, if we take a look back at Season 3, what I would define peak Black Mirror. Within Nosedive, there was a rating system that dictated society, and Lacey ultimately lost it all. Within Playtest, there was a new game that was being released and was piquing interest within the world, a piece of immersive tech that would hit the scene, and we saw Cooper's demise. Within Shut Up and Dance, it was about hackers reaching into anybody's devices and exposing their darkest secrets, and because of that, Kenny fell. Within San Junipero, we had the technology, which was San Junipero, an extremely intelligent piece of technology. And we saw Kelly and Yorkie battling with what to do as an afterlife, and if they would ultimately join each other. Then within Men Against Fire, we saw that soldiers had been programmed to view innocent victims as monsters with the introduction of mass, and it was something that was widespread. And then finally, in Hated in the Nation, we saw a world where robotic bees were killing an individual that was being voted for online. All of those topics and subject matters were larger than just watching an individual and their own demise. It all felt large scale, and even though we were watching one person fail, we kind of understood a bit more about why, and we were able to compare it to the rest of the society that was present, and how the overall society had changed because of it. This season felt like it lacked that completely. The only time we saw an impact on society was when in Joan is Awful we saw how everybody was going to be having a Streambury show created in their own life, and that was only if the AI tech was successful. And it wasn't, as it was ultimately destroyed. Yes, within Demon 79, technically we did see the world end, but it's not the same, as that was left up to interpretation as to whether or not it happened inside of Nida's head, a route that Black Mirror doesn't usually go down. It's always definitive and clear with a strong landing. I feel that's something that was most definitely lacking from this season of the show, because the entire world that an episode is set in and the not so distant future element that it has is something that I feel is just as valuable as the tech, the main character, and their downfall: the lack of identity. One thing that both of the points that I've just mentioned about this season of the show tie into is the fact that it contributes to a wider issue that was at play across the entirety of Season 6, and that is the lack of identity of this season when compared to the rest of the show. Black Mirror is known for creating episodes of a show that quite literally can't be found anywhere else. The show tackles topics that no other show will touch. It delves into realms of sci-fi which are extremely thought-provoking, innovative, and unique, and it always without doubt provides a gut-hitting punch to close off the episode, leaving you looking at that Black Mirror, making you stare right back at yourself. However, in this season, there were episodes that felt quite alien to it. For example, it felt like it could have been part of Inside Number 9, Cabinet of Curiosities, or The Twilight Zone. Whilst Charlie Brooker has openly come out and said how Black Mirror is heavily inspired by The Twilight Zone, never has an episode felt like it could have been a part of it, with Black Mirror being on a slightly different level to these other shows. I feel the fact that it felt like some of the episodes could have been part of the other series, it showed that what was out there in Season 6 wasn't necessarily up to its usual standard, and embodying the very thing that makes an episode Black Mirror. This paired with the very fact that the term Black Mirror has almost been coined as a phrase in our world for something when it's disrupting society, has futuristic technology, or looks like it could disrupt what's currently in place, that has almost unintentionally changed the show's identity and backed it into a corner amongst most of the casual viewers. This season of the show was something that wasn't bad by any means, but I would say that it just wasn't what we've come to expect from the show. Whilst I was a fan of Beyond the Sea and Lock Henry, I know full well that they are very different, especially Lock Henry. With us waiting since 2019 since the release of Season 5 for this new season, there was already a lot of anticipation that was there around what the episodes were going to be about and if they were going to be good. So that's something that has also most probably harmed it slightly. It's the longest we've ever waited, even from it going from Channel 4 and being bought by Netflix, and the longer you wait for something, the better you always expect it to be, so it also had that going against it. Will Black Mirror Season 7 be like that? Well, that's something that I don't know, but I would predict that based off of the extreme mixed reception and the division that's been formed over how Season 6 sits when compared to the rest of the show, I think we could see Black Mirror go back to its roots a little more. A season like Season 3 is something that I hope we get again. It was the perfect season of the show and it was true Black Mirror. We must bear in mind as well that it most probably won't take 4 years for Season 7 to be released. I imagine that the coronavirus pandemic was something that impacted production, plus there were a lot of differences that were in place due to the IP of Black Mirror, along with Charlie Brooker creating his own production company, so hopefully it won't take that long. But the bottom line is, Black Mirror was very different this time round. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't up to the standard that I feel we've grown to expect over the course of the show's lifetime, hence why Season 6 felt slightly different. So, there you have it, why Black Mirror Season 6 felt different. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of Season 6? Do you agree? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.